In this second assembly video, we're going to create a full assembly of the scooter. To do this, go to the application button, select new, and create a new standard millimeter IAM file, which is an assembly file. Go to the place option, and first of all what we're going to do is we're going to place from the deck folder the deck assembly. Scroll out, click to create one instance of this, and then press escape. To begin with, we're going to right click on this part and select grounded from the options. This will now ground this part and all others will move around it. Return to the ribbon, select place, and this time go to the fork assembly and open up one of these. Place them and press escape. Again, return from the place option, go to handlebars this time, locate the handlebar assembly, and again place one of these in the assembly and press escape. Lastly, go to the place option, locate the wheel assembly folder, open up the wheel assembly and create two wheels in this assembly file and press escape. If we now just zoom out, you can see that we've got a handlebar at the top, we have the deck which is grounded, a fork and two wheels. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to assemble the fork to the deck. To do this, from the constrain option on the ribbon, we're going to select insert, because both of these parts have an axis which we can assemble them to. Initially, from the fork, select this bottom edge here and the central axis, and from the deck, if we just rotate to look underneath this, we're going to select this underside edge and the axis. Click apply and close the pop-up box. If we now zoom out to see what we now have the fork in position, and this fork can move freely at the moment. We now need to join the handlebars to the fork. To do this, there's an extra part which is going to sit between the two, which will mean that this smaller diameter will fit into the larger diameter inside the handlebars. Select place, and if we go into the headset folder, we can locate the head tube. Open this up, click once and press escape to create one instance of this. First of all, we're going to use the constrain option, choose insert, and we're going to choose the outside edge of this head tube. Zoom in to the fork and we're going to choose this top edge that just comes out here and the central axis. Click apply, and we now have, when we close the pop-up box, the head tube ready to take the diameter of the handlebars. Our next stage is to assemble the handlebars on top, so we're going to choose constrain, insert, and in this instance we're going to choose this bottom outside edge of the head tube, and if we rotate to look underneath the handlebars, we're going to choose this outside edge and the axes of the handlebars. If we just zoom out to see what we have here, what we have is currently the handlebars upside down, so we're going to choose the align option, and now when we rotate the model back round to its normal position and apply, close the pop-up box, and we now have the handlebars attached. At the moment the handlebars rotate freely while the fork head also rotates freely. We'll create a relationship between these later on. What we're now going to do is assemble the rear wheel onto the deck of the scooter. First of all, click on the wheel, select free rotate from the ribbon, and rotate this part so it's roughly the right orientation to go into the assembly of the deck, and press escape. We're going to again use the constrain option, select insert, and in this instance we're going to choose this outside edge of the internal hole of the bearing, and if we rotate the model very carefully, from the rear of the deck we're going to choose the corresponding edge and the axes here. Click apply, and if we just zoom out of this, what we can see is we've now attached the wheel on and it rotates freely, and it's attached to the deck. In real life, this wheel would fall out of the deck, so what we need to do now is include an axis for this rear wheel. We can locate this by going to Place, and in the folder for the wheel assembly we can locate the axle rear. Open this part up and create one instance of this and press escape. This part has a central axis which will correspond to the hole, and an edge which will correspond to this internal edge here. So let's join these together using the constrain option. Insert, and on the axes we're going to choose this bottom edge here of the head and the central axes, and we're going to choose this edge here and the axes as well. What we should find is, as we rotate this part round, that this just comes just through underneath that edge there and is ready for some additional components to finally fit this part together. Click apply and close this pop-up box. What we now need to do is we need to bring in some parts that will fit this axis so it won't fall out. To do this, we're going to use the content center. Under the place option on the drop down, select place from content center. First of all, we're going to choose under fasteners, we're going to open up the washer folder. I'm going to select the ISO 7089 washer. Select OK. And what the assembly wants to know is on which edge are we going to attach this part. So I'm going to click on this external edge here, and in the pop-up box change the size to be a 6mm washer. Click OK, and this washer is now fitted in place. My next task is to find a bolt just to join these together so that these parts won't fall off. Choose place from content center. We're going to return to the fasteners, and in this instance we're going to choose from the bolts a socket head bolt, and this time we're going to find a drilled broached hexagonal socket head and bring this part in. Initially I'm going to choose where this bolt is going to sit, and I'm going to choose this edge here of the washer very carefully, and again choose the change size option. Now the software has already recognised it's a 6mm bolt, but it's not long enough at the moment, so I'm going to choose a 20mm length and click OK. If we zoom out, what we now have is the axle fitted all the way through, and we have a bolt and washer holding that in place, and the wheel will still spin round. What we now need to do is repeat the process at the front. Slightly different from fitting it onto the rear, because the deck was grounded, the parts we were joining together were sitting perfectly at 90 degrees to one another. What we need to do first of all here is rotate this fork to roughly the correct position, right click on it and again ground this part. Click on the wheel, choose free rotate, and again we're going to try and free rotate this part into roughly the corresponding direction. Press escape. What we're now going to do is again repeat this process. First of all, choosing constrain, insert, and we're going to choose this external edge of the bearing and its axes, and we're going to choose the corresponding edge and axes which we can see just through the hole here. Click apply and close this. What we can now see is this wheel will now spin freely. To join the wheel and the fork together, we're going to place from content center, return to the washer folder, again choose a plain washer, in this instance we'll choose a plain metric washer, and we're going to fit this washer onto the outside edge of the fork, which we can see here. Change the dimension to 6mm and click OK. We now have our first washer in place. If we rotate to the other side of the fork, we're going to add a second washer, so place from content center, bring in a second washer and click on the outside edge. Choose the dimension to be 6mm and click OK. The two washers are now in place. What we now need to do is introduce a bolt. So choose Place from Content Center. This time go into Bolts, and in this instance again we'll choose a socket head. We'll choose the same as we chose for the rear, so click OK, and we're going to choose this external edge to the washer very carefully, and in this instance the software has recognised it's already an M6 in diameter, and we now just need to choose the length. What we're going to do here is choose a length of 50mm, choose OK, and what we can do is we can rotate around to see if that has come out the other side, which it has. If we weren't happy with the length of the bolt, we could right click on it, choose change size, and then change its corresponding size here. Our last task is to place from the content center a nut. So if we go to fasteners, go to the nuts folder, hexagonal nut, and again we need to choose a suitable hexagonal nut. So in this instance I'm going to choose one of these ISO nuts here, choose OK. We're going to place it onto the outside edge of this washer. Just ensure that it's a 6mm measurement, which it is. Choose OK, and we've now fitted the wheel to the front. The last thing we need to do is to make sure that the handlebars, as they turn, rotate the front fork. To do this we're going to choose Constrain, and this time we're going to choose an angled constraint. We're going to select the directed angle, and what we're going to do is going to choose first of all this surface here on the handlebar, and we're going to choose this surface here on the fork. We're going to enter a measurement of -90 degrees and hit tab. And what this means is that these two surfaces will always sit at 90 degrees to each other at all times. Select OK, and if we now zoom out, make sure by right clicking on the fork that it's ungrounded. We should be able to now grab the handlebar and turn the wheel and the fork and all its corresponding parts. This assembly is now complete and ready for presentation.